Today I'm going to make some candles because I need to check some scent throw. Excuse the table, I got some isopropyl alcohol on the wood and this is what it's done, so yeah, don't do that. I'm using these tins. I'll link to a place you can get those online, and I've got some wick stickers here. Got those from Candle Shack. I'll also link those below, and also the wicks I'm using are the Eco 14 wicks because they were recommended for these tins, so I'm going to trust their opinion. And they just come like this, and you pop the wick sticker on the bottom and then centre them as best you can. I don't have a wick centerer or anything like that, so I'm going to do this by eye. So let's see how accurate I manage it. You want to make sure that the wick stickers are on there as firmly as possible, so I like to push them against a hard surface just to make sure it's fully stuck, and then I'll do the same when I stick it inside the pot. I'm just going to try and find the right spot for it at the moment, and once I think I've got it lined up, I'll pull the tab off the bottom and stick it down and then just push firmly, and then once I've done that I'll just sort of lift the thing up by the wick just to check it's fully stuck, because you don't want it coming loose and floating around in your candle when it's melted. And I think I've got this reasonably centre, and we can get on with making our candles. I'm going to do another tester one as well because I'm using enough wax for sort of 1.5 of these. I think it ended up being, it was supposed to be both, but I think I measured wrong. So I'll get this prepared as well. This is a rose gold tin. I don't see these available that often. I got these as samples, but if you search rose gold candle tin online, you should be able to find some. With these ready, we can now get our wax. So I'm using Eco Soy Wax, and I'm also using a fragrance from Crafterful. This marshmallow and raspberry fragrance is one of my favourites. I'm just making use of this at the moment. A friend really loves this fragrance, so I thought I'd make her a candle in it. And I've got my pitcher, and we're just going to weigh out the wax. Now, when you weigh cosmetics, as we know, if you need 10% of an ingredient, it will be 10% of the 100% total. So if we were having an excessive amount of fragrance like this at 10%, in a cosmetic you'd have 90% base and 10% fragrance. For candles, you're doing it on top of the 100%. So for candles we do 100% wax and then 10% fragrance. So I'd have 100 grams of wax and then 10 grams of fragrance. I hope that makes sense. So I've got my wax in my pitcher, and I'm going to melt that down in a water bath to about 80°C. In the meantime, I'm going to weigh out my fragrance, so that's ready. What you need to do is note the flash point of the fragrance that you want to use, because you will want to cool your wax down to below that flash point before you add your fragrance. If you have a fragrance with a very low flash point, then I recommend picking a different fragrance, because otherwise your wax is going to be too cool for optimum pouring temperature, basically. The flash point of this one is upwards of 61°C. So what we're going to do is wait until it comes down below 60, and then I'm going to add my fragrance. Once it has come below 60 and I've added the fragrance, I'm going to stir it for 2 to 3 minutes constantly to make sure that the fragrance oil is properly incorporated with the wax. The ideal pouring temperature for soy wax is around 60 degrees, and obviously I need to add the fragrance oil just under that. But after 2 minutes, it was still around sort of 57 degrees, 56 degrees, which is fine. It's not too far under the 60, so we're good to just pour straight away after we've incorporated the fragrance. And just pour up, not to the very, very top of your container. Always leave a little bit of space at the top. I measured this, not that great for the containers, so this one only is half full, but that's fine. It's just going to be a tester anyway. And then we need something to keep our wicks scented. And you can buy these, but I've just made some little cardboard pieces with a little slit in, and they work just fine to do this. So they just keep it in place while the wax is drying. And I'm going to leave these to set up overnight, and then we'll come back to them tomorrow. Okay, it's pretty much 24 hours. I'll take these off and we're just going to have a look at them. They look perfectly fine on the surface, and if I press my finger across the surface of the wax, it feels hard. It feels like there's no sinkholes or air bubbles in it, but I can't know that for sure. So here's my pokey stick, and I'm going to poke some holes in the surface of the wax and basically mess up the lovely pouring job that I did yesterday, just to be sure that there's no massive sinkholes underneath. Fortunately there aren't, but obviously I now need to repair this surface, so I just use a heat gun to melt the surface of the wax again to smooth it all out, and that way we can just be 100% confident that there's no sinkholes or horrible air bubbles under the surface that the customer's going to find when they burn their candle. I know this this looks like something you really wouldn't want to do, but trust me when I say it's worth doing, because if you do sometimes have a sinkhole, you really don't want that appearing when you're burning the candle. Okay, the tops are all dried again and smooth, so now we need to label them. Now I get these labels made from a specialist company because my logo has gold in it, and I just put a small label on the front just telling the customer what it is and my brand name, and usually the weight. And I'm not very good at centering them when I'm doing it on camera, but you get the idea. And then that's what the finished candle looks like. And we also need to trim the wick down a little bit because it is a bit long right now. I'm just using scissors, but if you have a specialist trimmer, then use that. They're a lot easier to get into the containers sometimes. And then this is what it looks like, all finished, and the lid just goes on like that. But there is one thing missing before you can sell your candles legally in the UK, and that is a CLP label. So I'm going to show you how to make those in a second. So with Craftiful, they actually offer CLP labels with your order, so you can say yes and then just fill in the details, and they'll provide you some free CLP labels. Depending how many you need, that may be helpful or it may not. Otherwise, if you're going to make your own, scroll down to the bottom, and for a candle we'd want this, and it gives you all of the symbols that there are. For this one there's no symbols that we need to include, and then all of this information, and we're just going to copy all that information. And then in Canva I have these CLP labels made up. Now for the round candles, what I do is do a circular label. These are actually for my wax melts, but it just gives you an idea of what a CLP label is. And basically you have your warning about how to use the product. The information I just copied and pasted is this here, and this here. So you can copy and paste that however you like. If there were any warning symbols, include them somewhere on the label like I have here. And then I always have just a little alert sign. You don't have to have this, but I do, because it just alerts people that they should be reading this. So you've got some clear instructions how to use. I normally include a little picture just to sort of indicate the fragrance. You don't have to do that. I include the weight, what type of wax it is, just the packaging information and where it was made, and then of course blacked out you have your address, company name and address details, and a contact number, and I also include an email and a website as well. And that's basically a CLP label. You need all of that information, and obviously, like I said, this is for a wax melt, which is why it's rectangular, but for a candle you can make a nice circular label and put it on the bottom, or you can have this and put it around the back of the tin. It's completely up to you, but that's all you need to do. You just need to make sure you get that information from the supplier's website, copy and paste it along with your how to use information, company information, weight, and where it was made, and any other information you want to include. The last thing you want to do before you gift or sell any candles is to test one from the batch and let it burn down completely, and just check that there's no issues with the wick going too close to the sides, the flame being too high, or any issues at all. And also check your scent throw and make sure that that's strong enough and to your liking. Anyway, I'm going to do that with this candle before I gift it to anyone or start selling them. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any comments, then drop them below. Otherwise, please subscribe and feel free to check out my Patreon, and I'll see you next time.